The wind howled through the abandoned streets of Ashbury, a forgotten town that had been left to decay for decades. Buildings stood tall and proud, but their walls were cracked, and their windows were shattered. The pavement was overgrown with weeds, and the silence was almost deafening. Emma had always been fascinated by the abandoned towns that littered the country. She often researched them, trying to uncover the history of the people who had once called them home. When she stumbled upon Ashbury, she knew she had to see it herself. As she drove through the barren streets, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The town was even more isolated than she had imagined, and she wondered if it was a mistake to come alone. The sun was beginning to set, and the shadows grew longer. Emma parked her car and stepped out, her eyes scanning the area. She felt a chill run down her spine as she heard a faint whisper carried by the wind. She shook it off, telling herself that her imagination was playing tricks on her. As she explored the town, Emma became increasingly unsettled. She felt she was being watched, and every time she turned around, she expected to see someone standing behind her. But the streets remained empty, and the silence persisted. Just as she was about to give up and leave, Emma spotted a house that looked more intact than the others. The door was slightly ajar, and she couldn't resist the urge to investigate. As she stepped inside, Emma had no idea she was about to uncover a twisted and horrifying truth about the town of Ashbury. The inside of the house was just as dilapidated as the outside, but something about it made Emma's heart race. She had always loved the feeling of exploring abandoned places, but this was different. It was as if the house was alive and watching her every move. As she crept through the darkened rooms, she began to hear strange noises, the sound of footsteps, and whispers that seemed to be coming from all around her. Her skin prickled with goosebumps, and she knew she needed to get out before it was too late. Just as she turned to leave, she heard a soft and almost imperceptible voice, but there was no one there. She froze, her heart pounding, but she couldn't see anyone. The voice spoke again, and this time, it was closer. "Welcome to Ashbury," the voice said. "We've been waiting for you." Emma tried to run, but the door was blocked, and she couldn't escape. She felt a hand grab her from behind and screamed, but no one was there. The next thing she knew, Emma woke up in a dark room, her hands and feet bound. She tried to scream, but her mouth was gagged. She was terrified, but she knew she had to stay calm to get out of there alive. Hours passed, and Emma was still tied up, her mind racing with fear and anxiety. She had no idea who had taken her or why, but she knew she needed to find a way to escape before it was too late. Emma heard a noise outside the door just as she was about to give up hope. She strained to listen, and she heard footsteps approaching. She didn't know if it was her captor or someone who could help her, but she knew that she needed to take a chance. With all her strength, Emma struggled against her restraints, trying to free herself. As the door creaked open, she saw a figure standing in the doorway, but it wasn't what she expected. The figure was a young girl, no older than 12, with dirty blonde hair and piercing blue eyes. She was holding a key, and she had a look of sadness on her face. "Please, help me," Emma pleaded, her voice muffled by the gag. The girl shook her head and handed Emma the key. "You have to leave," she said. "Before they come back." Emma was confused, but she knew that she needed to escape. She used the key to free herself and ran out of the room, not looking back until she was safely outside. As she fled from the house and the town, she realized what she had experienced was not just a nightmare but something much darker. The town of Ashbury was not just abandoned, but it was cursed, and the people who had once lived there had been consumed by a darkness that she had never seen before. Emma knew that she would never forget what had happened in Ashbury and hoped that no one else would ever make the mistake of entering that cursed town again. For weeks after she escaped from Ashbury, Emma was haunted by the strange events that had taken place. She tried to convince herself that it was all just a hallucination, but deep down, she knew it was something more. As she struggled to understand what had happened, Emma began to notice strange occurrences around her. Objects would move independently, doors would open and close without explanation, and she would hear whispers in her ear when no one was there. It wasn't until one night, when Emma was lying in bed, that she saw something she could not explain. The room was pitch black, and she could barely see her hand before her face, but she could sense that she was not alone. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the foot of her bed, and she could see it was the same girl from Ashbury. But this time, she was not alone. Behind her stood a group of shadowy figures, all with glowing eyes and twisted expressions. Emma tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. She felt she was being pulled into the darkness, and she knew she was in danger. Just as she thought it was the end, the girl spoke. "We need your help," she said. "The curse of Ashbury is spreading, and we cannot stop it." Emma was confused but knew she had to do something to help. She agreed to go back to Ashbury, to try to uncover the truth and break the curse that had haunted the town for so many years. As she returned to Ashbury, Emma could feel the weight of the curse pressing down on her. The town was even more desolate, and the shadows seemed to have grown longer. But this time, Emma was not alone. The girl from her vision was with her, guiding her through the town and helping her to uncover the secrets that had been buried for so long. As Emma and the girl delved deeper into the darkness of Ashbury, they faced a powerful and malevolent entity that had been feeding off the misery and pain of the town's inhabitants for centuries. With every step they took, the air grew thicker and the darkness more suffocating. Emma could hear the whispers of the entity in her head, trying to lure her deeper into the abyss. But Emma was not alone. She had the girl by her side, and together, they fought against the darkness with all their might. With a burst of energy and strength, they managed to overpower the entity and banish it from the town forever. As the shadows lifted and the sun began to shine through the windows of the abandoned buildings, Emma knew that the curse of Ashbury had finally been broken. But as she turned to leave, she realized the girl was nowhere to be seen. Emma searched every corner of the town, calling out for her companion, but there was no response. Just as she was about to give up hope, Emma heard a voice behind her. It was the girl, but something was different. Her eyes were glowing with an otherworldly light, and her voice was cold and distant. "I am the Curse of Ashbury," the girl said. "And now, I am free." Emma realized too late that the girl had been a vessel for the entity all along, and now it was free to spread its darkness beyond the town of Ashbury. As Emma fled the town, she knew that the horror she had experienced was far from over. The entity was out there, waiting for its next victim, and Emma knew that she had to warn others before it was too late.